in the beginning the concept of how fearlessness and authenticity is so very related to each other, how each of the two terms actually has gained strength from each other. But there could be a situation where you are very, very authentic. I mean, in the sense, for instance, a mother with a child or a mother with a partner in love, but still there is a fear of losing them. So how do you overcome that kind of fear?
You see, in authenticity, you are just that one thing. Just that one thing. Authentically, you cannot have womanness or motherhood as your primary identity. I do not mean to say that a mother will be inauthentic. But if there is fear as a mother, then it is important that we understand where the fear comes from. Authentically, we are only that which time cannot take away from us. The mother was not always a mother. And if she was not always a mother, motherhood came to her. It's a worldly and a material thing. You were not always even a woman. You are not always even a person. Whatsoever is there in the stream of time is only a shadow of what you authentically are. So, even if there is a relationship that is accorded the highest status in the society, a relationship that holds the highest moral place, like a mother-daughter, mother-child relationship, this relationship would still remain susceptible to fear as long as the person involved in the relationship, the one at the center of the fear, does not see that the primary identity cannot be that of a person or a woman or a mother. We hold certain things very close to ourselves. Because we hold them close to ourselves, it becomes extremely difficult to see and admit that even these things are time-bound, ephemeral. They depend on the tick-tock of the clock. We may not want to admit that. We may not be able to see that. But facts are facts. We cannot fight facts. So we may fail to see that we are very identified with something that is time-bound, but still this identification would have its effects. And the most perceptible effect is fear. Are you getting it? And it's often a complicated situation, because if we know that the stuff that we are holding on to is something that is ethically questionable, then it is easy for us to drop it, no? For example, somebody is quite attached to his ill-gotten wealth and therefore lives in fear. If you tell this person that the cause of your fear is the wealth that you are holding, then you can advise him very boldly, and he too will find an inner compulsion to drop the wealth. The inner argument would be, first of all, the wealth is ill-gotten. Secondly, the wealth is causing me trouble. Therefore, I must drop it. Right? In that kind of a situation, it is easy to advise. But it becomes difficult, complicated. When the thing that is keeping you in stress, anxiety, or fear is something that is socially sanctioned, something that you have always felt proud of, and yet it is, in a very hidden way, a source of trouble and fear to you, then even if you come to know that this is where my problem is coming from, it becomes difficult to solve the problem. Remember, the problem is not the thing that you are attached to. The problem is not the person you have the relationship with. If we look at it closely, the problem lies not in the other thing or the person, but in the relationship that we have with the thing or the person. That thing could be money, that thing could be knowledge, and that person could be a husband, could wife, a son or a daughter, a friend, anybody. It is the nature of the relationship that is causing problem. You could be fully authentic and yet relate. And then all those relationships will obviously be authentic relationships. So it is not as if living authentically means that one is going to be a loner, that one is not going to relate with people, one is not going to be sociable, not at all. One obviously lives in the world, so relationships are bound to be there. And man, as we know him, is a social creature. So the various kinds of ties with the society are also going to be there. It's just the quality of the ties that needs to be scrutinized. If I am authentic, my relationships will be authentic. If I am not authentic, my relationships will be messy. They'll be a source of trouble for the other person and obviously for me. What does it mean to have an inauthentic relationship? I think we need a little bit of elaboration on this, because we have been just going on with the word authentic. What does that practically mean? To be authentic is to be complete and secure in yourself. Right? What do you call any authentic thing as? Anything authentic is not in need of further improvement or refinement, right? It is already authentic. Anything authentic is complete in itself. You do not need to add something to it in order to give it value. That is the way the authentic mind functions. It does not relate with the other in order to gain completion through the other. And the other, as we said, could be a thing or a person. And if we are not authentic, then the other will be used by us, exploited by us in order to gain our own inner completion. We will say, you complete me. We will say, this job will make my life worth living. Or vice versa, if I do not have this job, then I feel reduced in my own eyes. this kind of an accomplishment will make me have some esteem in my own eyes. And if I do not get that accomplishment, then I feel little and inferior. These are signs of inauthenticity. When you are inauthentic, then you are constantly looking towards the world, trying to relate with the world in a not very healthy way. I'll look at this and I'll want to keep it in my pocket. Or I'll look at this and I'll see the name of the manufacturer, and then some desire will rise in the mind. Looks very nice. Wish I could work with the manufacturer. If I'm young, I'll look at a beautiful or rather an attractive person and say, if I could have that person in my life, then won't my life be raised to the next level? These are all telltale signs of inauthenticity. A feeling of incompleteness without something. And that something could be even your favorite dress or your favorite handkerchief, anything. Would have been easy to see by now that inauthenticity is synonymous with dependence. And where there is dependence, there is bound to be fear. Is that not obvious? And where there is dependence, you cannot have loving and healthy relationships, be it with your books or with your employer, with the society in general, with the planet in general, with your spouse, with your kids, with yourself. If I am all right with myself, if I feel complete with myself, then the nature of my relationship with my daughter would be entirely different. She is not here to give something to me. Instead, I am so all right, so absolutely complete, that I can take care of her. The very direction of the traffic reverses. Otherwise, there is exploitation. Unfortunately, that exploitation often looks like love. You see, I'm attached to you, I depend on you, and this is what I call as love. Or the other depends on me so much, and this is what I call as my responsibility. I live to fulfill my responsibilities because that other fellow depends so much on me. That does not mean that one has to quit responsibilities. That merely means that one has to define her responsibilities a little more clearly. If the other fellow is dependent on you, then your responsibility is not to keep the dependency going. If the other fellow is dependent on you, then the first responsibility is to reduce his dependence. No? But if the other's dependence on us reduces, often we become redundant. Our own sense of purpose in life often comes from the meaning we hold towards others, right? Why do I wake up each morning? Because I have to fulfill my responsibilities towards this fellow. And if one fine day I find that all of them are sovereign and independent and all right within themselves, then what will I wake up for? So, we tend to play those kinds of games with ourselves. Those games are cute, but if they continue for too long, then the outcome is fear. and fear is not quite enjoyable, is it?